Good afternoon. Welcome to Celtic State of Mind. My name's Kevin Graham, and today we're joined by John Paul Mason, which is usual on a Thursday. I'm not usually here on a Thursday, but Mr. Paul is away filming This Is Acsom, and I didn't ken who it is because he hasn't told me. So,
I do. I'm not going to
oh,
reveal it.
you do. Oh, you're
Well,
in the circle.
I think he messaged me this morning just to say what he was doing, and yeah, it's a good one. I've actually met said person.
Oh,
Here I think it was somewhere in Edinburgh, but I'm not going to say any more because it's up to him to do the big reveal on who
there's
it is.
obviously I'm no longer in the circle of trust. I'll maybe need to have a word about that.
No,
I'm
it was probably because he knows I've met the person. That's probably why he's mentioned it.
not. I like it being a surprise anyway.
I was with Paul Sheridan of the Wakes when it happened, so that may give a clue as to who it might be. So it's not Paul.
It's no Paul. Paul's a good guy. Right. I'm going to ask you about that Larsson top first and foremost. Euro 2000, because I had that top as well. Yeah. I bought that top in Benidorm because I'd ran out of clothes. So I went to a shop and bought the Swedish top. That's what I done. Lad's holiday in Benidorm, ran out of clothes, so I had to go and buy a Swedish.
I bought that in Nice because I was living there for uni, and I got a hockey name on the back, like it wasn't the proper lettering. Mm-hmm. And I always kind of regretted the fact that I hadn't got the proper lettering. And then years later, during lockdown, I discovered that guy on Twitter that can take off the numbers and like change basically repairing the kits. It's Football Creatio, his name's on Twitter. And I messaged him and I said, could you take this old one off and put these new lettering on, the proper lettering on? Because I found the proper lettering on eBay and sent it to him, and he did the business. So and it was weird because Larsson was never 20 for Sweden, but because, if you remember, he was a late addition to the squad that year because of his injury, because he was just coming back. Remember, he played the last game of season 99-2000. Remember, he came back and played against, I think it was Dundee United.
Dundee United came back. One of the youngest ever Celtic teams ever fielded by Kenny Dalglish, it would have been at that time. And right. Jim Goodwin made his one and only appearance for Celtic.
Is that right? Is that game? Wow.
That game.
I wonder if someone had told him that day, one day you'll be on the end of an absolute hiding as a manager against Celtic. But I know Larsson came back and then he was a late call up to the squad, so his usual number was already taken, and he got 20. So that's the story behind that. And international break and all that. I thought I'd stick up an old international Swedish top.
It's a cracking top, and it's got the vintage Adidas. For me, it's a vintage Adidas look. It looks very 80s. It does look very 80s, and we may as well speak about Adidas because the rumour is that you might get your wish, JP, that the rumour is Celtic are going to be one of Adidas's elite football clubs, which means our third kit will get a trefoil on it.
Well,
going forward.
If that is the case, then I'd be very happy about that, as long as they do a good job with it. But I really like the Man United third kit this season. Don't really like the Man United team this season, but the third kit, the red, white, and it's not. I don't know if it is black or if it's very, very dark blue. It probably is black because that's the Man United colours. But for some reason, it just kind of looks a bit off black, if that's such a thing. But I haven't actually seen it in person yet. I've only seen it like pictures of it on the pitch and stuff and on their marketing posts. But I would love a Celtic kit with a trefoil. That's the dream.
So that's one of the reasons that I think of Adidas for me, for a guy a certain age who wears, even though I've got an Umbro tracky top on the now. I love the Adidas, and when Celtic were going to it, I've bought an awful lot of the training gear and that, which I didn't usually do. Or folk have went like that to me. Would you want this as a present? And whereas before with other training gears, I went, nah, I'm not interested. But with being Adidas, it's kind of No, I'll take it because it's Adidas. It's maybe just what it means being an elite club. I don't know if you can this, JP.
No laughing at the back after last week. No laughing at the back at an elite club.
An elite club, yeah. Well, Luke McCowan thinks we're an elite club. Did you see his comments to the Daily Record journalist?
I mean, fair play to him. I like how they've picked up what he said about Aberdeen and ran with that, even though that isn't really what he said. Like the whole narrative about, they're no title challengers and blah blah blah.
Didn't say that.
Didn't say that. That's well done for completely spinning what he said, completely out of context. But I guess that is what you come to expect from the mainstream media in Scotland.
Definitely. What it means basically when you're an elite football club with Adidas is you do not use their template kits.
Mm-hmm.
So at the moment you can see that Celtic and Scotland have got the flashes that run down. So Celtic would get designed a bespoke kit, which hasn't got the features of the Adidas football equipment kits all over. So we'll maybe see some different. The heritage stuff that they released last week, I'm not really a fan of the goalie top, as Paul called it. I think I would have liked it short sleeves, but obviously it's only available in long sleeve. But I really love the hoodie. The hoodie's got a right 89, 90 vibe about it.
I don't know if I've seen the hoodie. I've seen the trackie in that long top. But
the trackie is the hoodie's virtually the same as the trackie, except it's a cotton hoodie. And I saw it and I went, well, I quite like that. That is very, very 89, 90. It's got that sort of 89, 90 Umbro look that Umbro had at that time. And to go on another tangent, I was watching Aston Villa Bayern Munich last week as well. And there was a guy celebrating the Aston Villa goal and he had like a cagoule, an early 90s cagoule on the Umbro had. And I went, I remember Celtic had something like that as well. Very, very smart. I'm not really into the top, but the hoodie.
How was that game? I didn't see anything about it, but was it a kind of similar effort to us against Barcelona in 2012? Was it like they had for Aston Villa Bayern Munich?
For the first 20 minutes, Aston Villa didn't lay a glove on them, and I was watching it going, this could be whatever Bayern want it to be. That was for the first 20 minutes. Then Aston Villa missed a chance and got into the game, and they're a well organised side. It wasn't the same as us against Barcelona. Villa always looked dangerous on the counter attack, but I would expect them to look dangerous on the counter attack because they finished fourth in the English Premiership, and they've got a really, really decent manager who knows how to win trophies in Europe. So. It was a great night for them at Villa Park. It was really, really good, and especially with Gary Shaw recently passing away as well, who was a member of that team who won the European Cup. It was quite an emotional night there. So,
well, the more victories they get at this point of the competition, the better for us because we play them last. So you want them to be, not treating that game with no respect, but you don't want them needing anything to qualify at that point. You know, that could be crucial for us by the time we get round to that, depending on how we get on against Atalanta, of course. That's their ground's only 25,000 capacity,
and that's at Redunto. That's them putting another. When Liverpool played there, they didn't have a stand behind the goals.
Aye.
That was getting built at that time, So it's
tickets will be gold dust for that, I would imagine.
Definitely, I think Celtic came out with was it 1,300 that we're getting? 1,300 tickets.
Actually better than I expected, but even still, there'll be a lot of people looking for tickets for that. I don't know how Atalanta treat European competition because it seems to me that Italian teams very rarely seem to show up for a European competition.
Well, they won the Europa League last year. Atalanta have got a very fanatical support. A very, very fanatical support. It's one of the. I read a story that every child that's born in Bergamo gets registered, gets sent an Atalanta membership. Every child in the hospital gets an Atalanta membership and gets a membership to the young Atalanta club, like we've got the young hoops and that right away. There's no argument about it.
My mate just had a wee boy, Larkin, and I think he was talking about adding him to the waiting list for a season ticket already, which sounds absolutely insane. But I guess maybe to increase your chances of getting one, it's maybe a good idea. Maybe just pay whatever nominal fee it is to have him added, and then the only thing is he's got a very, very staunch and proud grandfather who is a Hibs fan and who wants him to go that way as well. So he need to have like dual citizenship or whatever in terms of being a Hibs and a Celtic fan. He's already Hibs and a Celtic top, so I don't know how that's going to work.
I've let my wains choose. My daughter's heavily into Celtic. My wee man, who's 6, is Man City daft. But hopefully he grows out of that. But it could be worse. It could be worse.
Hopefully they're playing in the 3rd division by the time he's...
I let him go with it the new. No, I do let him run with it the new, but I maybe need to have an intervention at one point. Hopefully.
Please do.
What I'll do, we'll tie up this Larsson bit, then we'll move on to Hangway. Like, since you have the Larsson top, here's my Larsson book.
Nice.
If it's available.
There was no conversation between me and Kev before the show started today. But there you go.
My Henrik Larsson book, which is available from Acsom.net. It's a great Christmas present for folk you didn't like. Give them a book of poetry, and they'll love you forevermore.
Quality artwork inspiration as well.
Yes, the artwork
as approved by Andy McFarlane of the Twilight
Sad. Yes. Also, as well, if you go into Spotify, my band, the Celtic Cross Collective, I've wrote an EP based on this book, which is it all links. Henrik Larsson brings us all together in arts and football. I'll start. Did you watch the game last night against Sligo Rovers?
No, I did not. And if anyone in the comments starts having a go at me for not having watched a game before coming on to talk about Celtic on a podcast, then please don't, because it was a pretty much nothing game in Ireland that Lewis Palmer scored a hat-trick in. I mean, that's what it's going to be remembered for, and apparently Scott Bain was not didn't cover himself in glory. But no, I was working a gig last night, so I didn't have the opportunity to watch.
Well, you were working, that's fine.
I didn't even know. I wouldn't have even known where to watch it. Was it on Celtic TV? I guess
it was on Celtic TV.
Yes. I don't have.
And Celtic. The League of Ireland website. It was on pay-per-view on the League of Ireland website. But other than Coolshay, who was there last night, really enjoyed last night in Sligo. My first game with all 3 of my children with me. That's great. It's brilliant. It was actually great to see the amount of kids that were actually there in Celtic colours, and I let them away with the half and half scarves. I do let kids away with the half and half scarves, and it was really good. And we got a classic Brendan Rodgers-ism after the game. I'm going to see Celtic against Finn Harps in 1983, and he could even quote the date, but I'm not too sure whether the Celtic wiki had helped him with the date before he had went into the.
It's an absolute certainty that he had that date either given to him or looked up himself before that interview, because he was like, I think it was May 18th, 1983, and you're like, come on, you know that you would have been able to maybe get the year before the interview, but the fact that you're bringing up the date. Did you see the Photoshop? The guy, some guy on Twitter put a Photoshop of him in a Celtic tracksuit on a black and white picture from the actual game.
I know.
Sitting in the background is absolutely unbelievable. Really tough.
A lot of folk in the comments were in Sligo last night. Right. Brian Murphy was in Sligo. It was an awful lot of Fringe players are terrible and wouldn't get a game in the League of Ireland. One of the things I was going to mention, and I watched it, and basically it was a terrible pitch, terrible conditions as well. But the only conclusion that I really reached was, see, the young lads, the League of Ireland's a higher standard than the Lowland League, and I think that was quite obvious. A lot of the young boys that play in the B team struggled actually playing men, and that's is only to be expected. A lot of them are very, very good technically. You can actually see that they're decent on the ball and stuff like that. Guys like Turley, McCardle that came on as well. but they need to develop physically, and I don't think that's going to happen in the Lowland League. For me, out of the sort of squad players that were playing, the only one that really, really showed up to me, which is quite funny saying this with Lewis Palmer scoring a hat-trick, was Luke McCowan. He showed a great leadership role during that game, especially in the second half. He grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck, and he was trying to make things happen. And you could see that he was lending his experience to the young lads there. When you have a look at it, for me, none of the fringe players done anything to show me why they're fringe players with Celtic. They didn't. There's none of them after that 90 minutes going to be banging the manager's doors going, I want to get in this first team, I want to get in the first team. Some of them probably should be better keeping their heads down on the bus on the way to the airport. Just like that's, but as you say, it was a bows game. And even with Palmer getting a hat-trick, I don't think he done anything absolutely outstanding that I would expect him to do against a League of Ireland team, and that's no disrespect whatsoever to the League of Ireland team. To change the manager's opinion on him. It was 3 tap-ins at the back post, basically. All good work down the other side. For me, overall, it was a great exercise for the Irish Celtic fans to see Celtic there. The showground, is it the showground? Is that Wrexham? The ground was sold out. I think it was a great exercise for the young lads, actually, to be managed by Brendan Rodgers in a game, and I think that's what I took away for the young lads to get the benefit to be Brendan Rodgers in the dugout telling them what to do, but a lot of them need to bulk up. But I think a lot of the fringe players were poor. I did actually text at one point that surely we can leave Bain and Nawrocki in Ireland, that there must be a farmer needing some labourers somewhere, because in that first half they were utterly dreadful. They were really, really poor.
What was Nawrocki? What was the deal with him? Is just does not look like,
just didn't look up to it. He looked slow, cumbersome. Again, those in the comments who were actually, the weather looked terrible on the telly. So folk can maybe help me out over there what the weather was actually like. The park was really, really heavy. He just didn't look up to it at all. But saying that, Bain had a bad game. He had a nightmare of a first half.
Really?
And he was took off at half time.
Wow.
See, if I was being really, really cynical, and I could probably say that was because Lewis Palmer was playing in front of him.
I did say that when we were questioning Bain after the Falkirk game, and I said, well, you can't really make a good assessment of him until he's played a game with Idah in front of him, because of what Idah brings in terms of helping the kid out, because he's a young boy. He's not in any way a seasoned professional or anything like that. You're not bringing in a guy that's got multiple caps or has 100, 200 games under his belt. I don't know how many games he's played in Spain so far, but it's not anywhere near the levels of, for example, Luke McCowan. I know there's an age difference there, but Luke McCowan must have some amount of games under his belt in terms of experience. So I'm not surprised when you said that he was the one that was kind of driving it. And even just reading his comments and seeing clips of his interview with the press the other day, he's obviously he's aware of where he's at in terms of his standing at Celtic. He's aware that he's not just going to waltz in and pick up a first team jersey. But I liked what he said about saying, I want to prove that I'm as good as the people that are coming off the park, that I'm coming on to replace. And I think he kind of believes in himself. And I mean, what a feeling it must be. Even like folks sort of play down or do down the idea of like getting that victory at Dingwall on Sunday, and you're just like, Luke McCowan played a part in that, and that'll do him the world of good in terms of his confidence, because regardless of what you say, that is our bread and butter, is getting victories in Dingwall and digging out victories at that point. And you see what happens when you don't get a victory in Dingwall. it can have an impact on your season. So you've got to get these wins, and by any means necessary. And Luke McCowan, for me on Sunday, definitely was one of the major catalysts to
definitely
us getting back into that game and getting the 3 points.
What I thought him and Bernardo brung to the side on Sunday was a simple urgency that wasn't there. They didn't do anything spectacular. They just gave an urgency in that midfield as if we need to start getting things moving. And it was they did turn the game. It was one of the games you got when we get the penalty against us, right away the ball comes. Were you in dingwall?
I wasn't. No, I was. Again, it's that time of year. There's just so many gigs. So I was working a gig with a heavy metal band from England called Orange Goblin, who you may not have heard of. But
the comments are going to go wild with that band's name.
Orange Goblin.
Orange Goblin.
I haven't even thought about the potential connotations of that, but there you go. They're a real band. I didn't make up the name. You can look them up. They sold out Tuts on Sunday night. They've played Tuts many times. Really nice guys as well. Put away some amount of drink, I have to say. Singer's gone teetotal, but the rest of them somehow managed to put away a monumental amount of booze for a Sunday night. But no, I did obviously watch the game before I went to start work, but I wasn't able to make the 3 or 4 hour journey up to Dingwall and back, and also make my work. But no, I watched the full game. So what were you going to ask me?
In that first half when we were struggling, it was very, very flat. I find 12 o'clock games on a Sunday very flat. Doesn't matter what one you watch, there seems to be a sort of void atmosphere about it. It doesn't seem a great time to play football.
Yeah, no, it's always the same. It feels weird. You're still half asleep. Whenever I do these trips and I go with my pals and stuff like that, I go on the Easter House Emerald sometimes, and there's I don't know how people are tanning bottles of Buckfast at like 9 in the morning and stuff like that. I mean, that people might laugh at me for saying, oh, what do you mean? Like, how that's just par for the course? And it's just like, nah, man, give me a coffee and a donut or something like that. I don't really fancy wiring into tonic wine at that time of the morning. But I mean, fair play to the folk that do. But there isn't, in general, it doesn't, at 12 o'clock, it doesn't feel like there's that kind of same level of anticipation as there is as a 3 o'clock or a later kickoff. But 3 o'clock feels like a normal time for a game of football. 12 o'clock doesn't, especially when you've had to get up at, well, I've been to Dingwall before, so you have to get up at like 7 a.m, 8 a.m. to get there, and you're a half shut knife for the first half, and then maybe you perk up for the second half, but you're not giving your all. And then you ask yourself, well, how is it for the players? They've just come back from Germany on the end of a horrendous result, but the travelling aspect of it, and then immediately having to go. I mean, away in Dingwall after being away in Dortmund is the worst possible tie you could probably have had in terms of distance and all the rest of it. And that's what we were served up. So I know what you mean. Is the short answer to that.
Before I go back to what I'm going to bring up Ian Roy. Ian stays in Florida, so he's still in the hotel just now. He's heading back to the beach to see if his house is still standing after Hurricane Milton last night. Hope everything's well, Ian. I hope you get back and your property and your possessions are all okay after.
Yeah, I met a ticket. I don't know what's the proper term for someone who works on the trains. I don't want to say the wrong thing in case it's.
Let's just call him a conductor. I'm a middle-aged guy. I can get away with calling him a conductor.
A very nice guy that works on the trains that I met, who is a fan of a Celtic state of mind, and we had a nice conversation between Glasgow and Edinburgh, and we're talking Celtic, and he was telling me he was going to Florida. This was a few months ago, and we follow each other on Twitter now, and I've been seeing his updates, and he's basically trapped in his hotel in Florida with copious amounts of booze, Bud Limes, etc. But I don't envy him. Having seen some of the videos this morning, I don't envy him. You see the footage of the alligators? That's wild, isn't it?
It is absolutely wild.
Yeah. So I hope everybody.
I hope everything's all right. And any other Celts that are listening for Florida, watch for Florida. I hope everything is okay across there. Right, back to the game on Sunday. As soon as that ball comes in, it hits Scales' hand. I'm like, that's a penalty. Even when they moved away, he went, that's a penalty. His arms up there. In this day and age, it's a penalty. Then Schmeichel saves it and it gets retaken. And I'm sitting watching it with my dad. And I went like that to my dad. This is going to be one of the days. This is just going to be one of those days that nothing's going to go for us. We're looking flat and we've got a correct decision against us. Both of them with a correct decision. And even when we got it back to one each, I did say to my dad, I'll take a draw here. I says, we've been ranked rotten, but I'll take a draw. But obviously, once you get that one, there's a wee bit in the back of your mind going, let's go and get another one. Let's go and get another. Let's go and get
quite similar to the Falkirk game. Would you not agree? Like when we got the equaliser there, it was like, right, bang, straight away. Use this momentum, get another one.
It was the first time our winning goal was the first time we really moved the ball. We moved the ball really quick, and as soon as we got the free kick, I went like that. Play it. Johnson's free. Just knock the ball to Johnson and get it, because they had pushed 4 guys up the park, and I went, they're out of shape. This is the time to actually do it. And it was interesting to hear Alistair Johnson and Nicholas Kuhn after the game, Bates saying the exact same thing. Kuhn knew right away that when Johnson got that ball, that the guy was too tight to him. He hadn't been set and he could go. And that's split second thinking that we didn't see. That these guys can calculate that right away and go, right, I'm going, because that guy's no set up. I thought Johnson never let us down, but once again the subs come on and make an actual difference, and having 5 subs does help teams like Celtic.
I mean, it does seem almost a little bit unfair at times now that this has become set in stone, isn't it? The five subs thing now. That's it. It's not going anywhere because
the amount of football they want footballers to play is going to be set in stone.
But initially, it was purely because of COVID, wasn't it? That's why it was introduced. So you're right. It does seem a little bit unfair when we've got the level of quality that we now have on the bench to bring on to affect the game, because there was times last season, especially in the first half of the season, when Brendan Rodgers didn't even go to his bench because he was like, well, I probably better sticking with what I've got in the pitch rather than going to the bench, which was to our downfall. That's why we were dropping points, because we weren't able to do that like we did on Sunday. So, but like you said, the difference the subs made. Kyogo as well might not have had a hatful of chances, but he certainly made himself just his movement and a different option for the Ross County defenders to consider. And then obviously there's folk that seem to have it in for Adam Idah that will then point to, well, there's another game he's not scored, and you're just like yeah, but he did score against Slovan Bratislava. He scored against Falkirk. I've not forgotten what he did last season. I still don't think we'll see the best of Adam Idah until deeper into the season because of his poor pre-season that he's admitted that he had because of the whole transfer wrangle and everything that was going on there. I don't think the manager really had a lot of time for him, given that he knew that he wanted to leave. So it wasn't being used.
He's admitted himself that he feels a couple of weeks behind and set up. On Sunday, if you look back on Sunday, he had a couple of headers which were behind him and ended up going across the bar and stuff like that. We didn't really create nothing. There was other guys on the park as well that ended up going off like him, who had really, really poor games.
I mean, Engels didn't play well. I mean, let's not beat around the bush. Engels was poor.
The lad's still settling into what we demand.
I know.
And getting completely gubbed in Germany, then going to Dingwall at 12 o'clock on a Sunday must have been a culture shock to him.
Very much so.
And to his body. and mentally as well. So, look, we've got enough in the locker in the squad that we can make those changes. And we are going to have bad games. When we're getting into the winter time, the pitches start getting heavier and stuff like that. So there'll be other games when we can grind it out. But I really believe that we do have the bench to grind it out. If we've got guys there, we can make the changes to grind it out, which we didn't have last year. Which you actually we didn't have last year. I mean, what it leads us up to now, Aberdeen got a late winner as well, which sets up next Saturday, and everybody's getting really, really Man United about next Saturday already. The press and everyone, Celtic are being like made out to be these big bad boys because we wouldn't accept the Premier Sports deal, which I've actually wrote this down, so I'm going to read it, which could see up to 2 additional home games shown for any top flight stadium. So the 2 games, you were basically getting 75 grand a game. If Premier Sports decided to pick one of your games, obviously Premier Sports gave Rangers 75 grand, and that's how they were 8 o'clock on the Sunday night. Even though I think was it the Great North Run or something was in Glasgow during that day. I noticed that we're at Pittodrie at Tynecastle at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night as well.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And Aberdeen were at 8 o'clock at night as well at one point. I think that's.
I know it was 7:45 on the 23rd of November, right? Because I had to double check that because I was like, is that right? So obviously that must be on Premier Sports then. But I'm okay with it not being on TV. I mean, it's one of the reasons that you pay your money as a season ticket holder. And Celtic Aberdeen that game could quite easily have not been what it is. It's only down to Aberdeen's incredible start that it is what it is. But I'm kind of glad that it's exclusive to season ticket holders and we're not getting moved around, because that would impact, if it was moved to Saturday evening, that would impact my day and night. I wouldn't be able to do maybe something that I was planning to do that night. If they suddenly just went with a week's notice, we're putting that on at night, and I'd be like, well, I was planning to go to a gig or go for dinner or something like that.
And an utterly selfish point of view like yours, an utterly selfish point of view like me, I'm flying to Gran Canaria on the Sunday, so I'm quite happy it's on the Saturday and I didn't want it moved. I mean, obviously we didn't need the 75 grand. Obviously Rangers did for some reason, maybe something to do with outstanding bills for steelworks or something like that. But like, so the refusal was, Celtic says that they're basically they were safeguarding. No, there wasn't safeguarding. They say they were protecting season ticket holders. But you look at the clubs that have accepted this TV deal, right? They state they won't give us extra away tickets because they're protecting season ticket holders, but they're willing to inconvenience season ticket holders by accepting a few dollars more for Premier Sports to move kickoff times. A bit hypocritical, ain't it? So what's the right answer here, eh? So we can go to Celtic, that's quite right, but then you've got other clubs moaning that they need more money. They'll take more money from a TV company, inconveniencing their season ticket holders, but they will only move these season ticket holders for us to give us more tickets to make them more money. So
it seems a bit of a nonsense. But the more 3 o'clock Saturday games at home, the better for me, because like they seem such a rarity these days. So to pull one away from you this close to the game and be like, oh, that's another one that's moved. And I like going to a game on a Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. It feels right that's when you go to a football match. It doesn't feel right to go at 12 o'clock on a Sunday, especially when it's away and you're having to travel for 3 or 4 hours. And I know that's the same for all teams. It's not as if it's just Celtic, but
we talk about Celtic and the Irish support. The Irish support will be looking forward for their Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff.
Yeah, because that's the easiest way for them to get to a game is a 3 o'clock game on a Saturday. As soon as you start playing around with that, then that's then making it difficult for them. And there's so many. How many thousand Irish fans travel to Celtic Park for a home game?
Well, when we
know the figure.
I don't actually know the figure, but I know when we when we get into the bus park on a Saturday 3 o'clock game, there's about 12 to 15 buses, Irish buses already parked in the bus park when we get there for a Saturday 3 o'clock game. So, aye, it is. I'm quite agree with Celtic. This is an anomaly, this game. This is an absolute anomaly. Nobody would have predicted this. But Celtic are quite right to go, no, we're not going to move it.
Yeah, by the way, on the subject of Aberdeen, my best pal James is a huge Aberdeen fan. Like,
I was about to.
I'm really pleased for him and them. He took his boy to the game on Sunday and was sending me pictures of Arthur celebrating at 6,000. Right? I mean, that's
6,000. There you go.
That's a huge chunk of the. That's a massive percentage of the support, you know. But anyway, he took his son Arthur to the game, and you know, I want Aberdeen to do well because of him and them. Obviously not against Celtic, but to see Pittodrie, I don't know if it was sold out, but I mean, I saw a picture.
It says it was sold out.
Did it say it was sold out? I mean,
yes.
I don't know if I quite subscribe to that, because I saw a shot just before kickoff and I always look to see what their home support is like, purely because they've reduced our allocation, and I've now sat in the home end at Pittodrie 3 times to watch us play against Aberdeen, which is a wholly uncomfortable experience. Very, very weird. I'm going in the Groucho Marx, like, glasses and moustache, just in case. You never know. Like, there's a guy for that podcast. Smack. You know, I mean, let's face facts. These guys, I'm not trying to say I'm some sort of celebrity, but like, there's every chance that if I went dressed like this or whatever, then I could get, you know, my head kicked in. So
completely understand where you're coming from. My friend Fraser, who's a St Johnstone season ticket holder, we were going up there for a night out, and St Johnstone were playing Rangers, and our plan was to meet him in the town after it. And he stays in the house, he's close to St Johnstone's grounds, and he went, just come to the football with me. And I went, I can't go to the football with you against Rangers. I mean, there's just no way that can actually happen.
Yeah, no. But going back to Aberdeen, like I said to James, I was like, what's the contract situation with this guy? Because he's on the path to you earning potentially a lot of money if someone comes in for him, in the same way that someone would come in for a player. If I mean, this could all go to pot and the guy could be out the door in March. I really hope that's not the case, because you do want a strong manager at a club like Aberdeen, and you do want to see. I mean, Aberdeen have got a really storied history in Scottish football, and it's been, you know, the likes of them getting beat off Darvel and things like that. I mean, that shouldn't be happening. That's an absolute embarrassment that happened. And yeah, I do want to see them doing well, like I said, apart from against us. And they're doing well at the moment. And I think he said that he'd signed a 2 or a 3 year deal, and he believed that was being hastily renegotiated or attempting to be renegotiated, because if you could tie him down, even at the end of this season, if you could tie him down for another extra year or 2, then that protects them. If somebody, somebody from England Championship or bottom half of the Premier League were to be like, oh, let's take a chance on this guy, but they need to cough up the money, and you wouldn't want Aberdeen to lose a guy that's built them up from the sort of ground, because they were on their knees really as a club. Like, the support were disinterested. I could feel it when I was sitting in the home end. You know, you get an idea sitting around people how they feel about the club, and can't remember everything that was said, but I was hearing wee things from conversations, because I'm sitting on my Jack Jones and I was listening to what people were saying, and you could get the vibe that they were just kind of like, well, where do we go from here? I mean, I know we're getting beat at home off Celtic or whatever, but and that's maybe to be expected in the current climate, but just results against other teams as well, Darvel, and there's many others where you're looking at Aberdeen scores and like, how are they getting beat at home? Like teams like that, like losing like 3-0 at home at Hibs and things like that. You're like, wow, man, that how they might.
They got beat 6-0 at Easter Road, Was it 6?
Did they? to get
They
six.
got beat. Aye, because it was Pat Bonner actually says, it was talking about Liam Scales, and he says in the space of 3 weeks, he lost 12 goals to Hibs and they got beat off Darvel.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I remember him saying that as well. And then had to, the mental recovery for him to then play a full season at Celtic and win a league title and a Scottish Cup and play in the Champions League is something not to be forgotten. But yeah, Aberdeen doing well, and hopefully that continues, but after next Saturday.
Aye, hopefully it does continue. I'm going to bring up some comments and we're going to go to the title of the day's show, The Football Doctor. That just puts me in mind of the Time Lords, Doctor Who.
I want to insert a disclaimer before I continue. The only thing about Aberdeen is an element of their support that sings certain songs at Celtic Park have got no place for me in football, and
yes,
I'm not a fan of that at all. So why do you want Aberdeen to do well? I'm more thinking about the football club and not the supporters. But there's some things that they've sang at Celtic Park, which I've mentioned to James as well, and I don't think he was best.
I have been in Dunblane having some pints when Aberdeen fans have either stopped off on the way down the road or stopped off on the way back up the road, and there is an element who do, especially a younger element, that do partake in singing in certain songs which doesn't benefit them, but then we've all got them. That's the bottom line. Right, let's have a wee look at the comments and then we'll get to the Football Doctor. Danny boy Kev, you're a man of words, so why is the abbreviation of such a long word? Can you come back in and tell me the word just so I know? Because I can't remember what it was.
20 minutes ago.
The Urban Cool Shane, no waste of time, talk about the game last night. No, for the Exiles Irish fans, a brilliant occasion. Celtic follower kind of backs up what I thought. Baye gave Palmer a... Can I say ball? I've said it now. He was annoyed with Palmer. Tony, Kev, it is the showgrounds. No Wrexham connection as far as I know. Aye, the Wrexham's ground is called the showgrounds as well. On Orange Goblin, Andy Leakins, it says Alec Rain's nickname for sure.
I'll tell him to make a t-shirt up with his face.
573 says it's Super Sally's favourite band. Let's know. Underwater Cabbage Salesman. I didn't know John Beaton was in a band.
Oh man, I love the fact that I've absolutely inadvertently made Orange Goblin cult sensations within the Celtic support.
And Barry M 82 talking about gigs, went to see Cast last week. First time I've ever seen them live. Absolutely superb. Their new album is absolutely cracking. Their new album is up there with one of their best.
What a band! I'm supporting Oasis next year as well now. Them and Richard Ashcroft are supporting Oasis.
Is that an exclusive?
No, like Liam announced it. Liam announced
it. Mark Wilmot is a racecourse ground. I stand corrected. And there we go. See, you shouldn't have let me think I know things about football when I didn't. That's fine. Right. So news broke last night by Stephen McCowan that we're appointing Paul Tisdale. I don't really know if we're appointing him. It looks like he's going to come in either for a temporary basis. So it's not. I don't know if we're permanently appointing him as a role in the club, or either that's on a consultancy basis. But basically, we're appointing the best man, the best dressed man in football to oversee, and this is what Stephen McCowan wrote, review of football functions such as recruitment, data, and player and coach development. The man himself, who I think looks like the lead singer from Maximo Park, which you're actually managing tomorrow night, gig at the Queen's Hall tomorrow night.
I'm running their gig tomorrow night at the Queen's Hall. You said that before.
He says himself, I go into football clubs and I try to find performance improvement solutions using data and also my coaching experience. His coaching experience includes Exeter City, MK Dons, Bristol Rovers and Stevenage, a career that spanned over 1,000 games in the dugout. He's more recently advised Fulham and Crystal Palace, and he's already been at Celtic quite a few times this season, having a look at the team and stuff. Look, we've all called for a revamp of the football operation. I think a lot of us were actually thinking about somebody from Brighton, Brentford, Bruges, or one of the Red Bull to come in. But then again, we're getting a guy for Exeter, and I'm going to suspend my judgment until I see the results. I've had a look at him; he's seemingly quite highly thought of in the football circles of what he does, his consultancy work. It kind of puts me in mind of the 3-month deal that we had with Gordon Stratton that we never saw the report for. So we'll just need to wait out. We just need to wait and see if this guy's just a better dressed Gordon Stratton or whether he'll bring about real change at the club. This has got Brendan Rodgers' fingers all over it, though. It really has. I've watched an interview with the boy this morning, and he talks very business speak, and he sounds like a Brendan type of guy, truthfully, like coming in. It'll be interesting because it is what we've asked for. It definitely is for us, a fresh pair of eyes to come in and oversee where we need to improve.
I mean, I would never be like kind of snobby or whatever the word you would use is regarding his CV or anything like that, because what if all of those clubs he's done really, really good things at, and it's just a case of applying the same methods at a bigger football club, much the same way as if anybody was being snooty about, that's a better word, snooty. If anyone was being snooty about Luke McCowan signing from Dundee, and there probably were quite a few, if you probably go back and look at the comments on the day that he signed, obviously there'll be hundreds, if not thousands of people being like, amazing to see you play for Celtic, you're a Celtic fan, blah, 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 all that kind of positivity. But there's always a negative element that will be like, well, why are we saying somebody for Dundee? Is that our level now? Is that what we're doing? Like, that kind of thing, you know? So it'd be the same. People will view this, if it does come to pass, with the same optics and be like, oh, why are we not going for somebody at this club? Or like you say, Brighton.
That was my thing, where you have a look at your Brighton and your Brentfords and you go, surely there's somebody there. But obviously, Brendan knows him.
I'm absolutely happy with that. If it's somebody that he's got a relationship with and he can work well with, and they can, you know, bounce off each other to for the betterment of Celtic, I'm fine with that. It's not somebody that we're going to see a lot of. Probably we'll hear about him, and then if he does come into position and starts doing a job, we'll then see his results, good or bad, through the performance of development and the operation side of the whole aspect of the club that we're led to believe is a top football club. And you and I both know that there's aspects of Celtic right now that cannot be categorised as that of a top football club, because we've made terrible mistakes in the transfer market, where we've spent money on guys like Burnaby and currently Nawrocki, and prior to that, going back not so long ago, Ayeti, Barkas as well. Obviously, they're the well-cited big money flops that have come in, but there's been so much money just squandered on 2 million here, 3 million there, and then you add it all up and you've got an obscene amount of money that's been wasted. And then you also point to the lack of development and youth players coming through. And I know it's a hard situation for anybody to do well in that, because of the structure of the B team and where they play and who they're playing against. It's a big challenge, but I would certainly never be kind of, oh well, he's only worked at, I can't even remember the list of clubs you listed off there, but they weren't exactly the glitterati of English football. But I think it's only fair to give someone a chance to prove anybody that doubts him wrong.
It is. I mean, I'm sure there's hundreds of these guys have applied for this, have gave Celtic their CV and go, I'll come in and talk to you, because that's what happens in any business. You've got these grifters who can talk the talk and will come in and say, I can improve, I can give you X percentage improvement. I get it in my work. I get it, guys coming to try to sell me databases all the time in fancy suits. And you get the same.
I can think of one in particular that made his way back to Govan not so long ago. That was definitely one of those guys that was probably a lot of hot air and talk in his interview, but failed to deliver when it actually mattered.
Definitely. I mean, we need a fresh pair of eyes. I mean, when you mentioned these failed signings, and this is something. I listened to a podcast on The Athletic the other week there, where these guys who study tactics and data, and basically says, is data's importance in football overstated? Like, is everybody saying, oh, the data this, data that, like, all stems back for the money ball? And what they were saying is, data only enhances decisions, but it should just be in the room. It shouldn't be the driver for decisions. And I think Celtic have maybe got to a point where they use data too much rather than using the eye test, where where you had data with guys like, I'm going to use Yang for example, a hell of a lot of boxes on a spreadsheet, but then nobody's actually went and watched the guy and says, right, he's going to fit into the scheme of things and stuff like that. And I think it could just be a hipster thing. Well, we need to use the data, we need to use this, we need to use that. But obviously, it's a big thing now. And what they were saying about the Brighton, Tony Bloom quickly realised that data can only get you so far. Brighton are at a level where they won't get any higher, because it'll get you there then, but then you still can't compete further up, so it'll get you to a level. So that's why Tony Bloom is hawking out his analysis team, because they can't do anything more with Brighton, so they're looking for other projects. And one of the other projects that they actually done was Ipswich, and not a lot of folk ken that they were heavily involved with getting Ipswich promoted using that. But it gets to a level where it doesn't matter how good your data is, it's not going to make any difference because of the level of player that you're going to attract. It could well be that Celtic have got all these tools there, and just not using them right. And maybe that's what this guy can come in and have a look to see. I'm just wondering why it took them so long. I'm just wondering why it's took them so long to get somebody to come in and try and do this overview, because it could have been done in February when
we do seem to
left.
We do seem to take our time to get things done. I mean, we've been looking for a left back for about 4 years, haven't we? So, and we still haven't got one in. We've got a guy on loan to challenge Greg Taylor, but there's been so many failed attempts with loan signings and actual buys in Alexandro Bernabe. It doesn't really surprise me. If it's a case of waiting for someone to complete a job somewhere, or there's always something going on in the background when you're going to employ somebody. It could take a bit longer because of their circumstances or whatever. So I'm not going to get too downbeat about the fact that it's taken us a long time. It's all about whether or not once you go and push the button to get that person, if that person is the right person for the job. And if it is this guy, I mean, I guess the Stephen McCowan name to the story.
Reputable source.
What
he usually says it's spot
on. Exactly. You wouldn't be thinking it's pie in the sky or fantasy. So, I just guess we'll have to wait and see. But as with everything at Celtic, you just want the best person available. If there's a company making the best quality pies, you'd want, for the right price, you'd want us to be in the market for those pies. And exactly the same when you go higher up the tree at Celtic, you want the best person available. I believe that we've got the best manager available. there might be some people that still have reservations about that, given a recent European result. But I wouldn't want anybody else in charge of Celtic right now. I don't know who else it would be. So, as I said, you want the best person in charge in every aspect of the club. And if they decide that this guy is, then they put their faith in him, and then see where he can take us. And that's the bottom line.
It is, and I think we didn't ken how Celtic run it. I says to Paul last week, I says we have to give the recruitment. I'm going to need to mention pies, right? Because Declan put a photo up for Dingwall on Sunday. I'm eating a venison pie,
right,
at Dingwall. I've never had a venison pie. Seemingly says it was very, very good. I could just picture Bambi though, and that was the thing. So you're talking about great pie makers. I've seen pies at Celtic Park, and the bottom falling out them and all of that. It's horrible. Anyway, where's the data for pies? Where's the data for pie makers? We need somebody to come in and give us data for like pie makers. Get decent food at Celtic Park. Not that I buy it anyway.
That's a whole other story.
that's a whole.
Celtic Park and the pricing of it is a whole other story. But let's not go down there with 5 minutes left.
Aye, it brings the thing with data doesn't predict the future. It only makes sense of the past. So this boy's coming in to see how we've used it, and he'll highlight previous mistakes in areas where we didn't analyse it. We didn't actually analyse the data right. Henrik Larsson basically says, "Do we need a fresh pair of eyes to say we've spent unwisely?" Probably no. No, we didn't. But we probably need somebody in there.
Make sure it doesn't happen again.
We maybe need somebody in there, and I'm not going to mean this to be flippant. We maybe need somebody in there who's no called Stratton or Wall to see if there's anything else that we can actually do. And I didn't mean that in a flippant way. But we need somebody to come in. And
you know as well as I do, Kev, there's no way that Celtic are operating at their top level right now in terms of the football department. There's so much room for growth and development, and I don't even know what that could be. I mean, if we were to get somebody in that was actually really, really good at that particular job, then it only stands to reason that in a couple of seasons we would see the benefits of that.
Basically, we've been told of people who try to deal with Celtic and players transfers and player scouting that were antiquated. That is the word that was used of how we do business, and that's what needs to change. In this interview with Mr. Tisdale, it gets brung up how because he was voted the best dressed man in football. Right, that's what he was voted. I can't remember who voted him that. But he was voted the best dressed man in football, and there's loads of pictures out of them dressed in some quite fetching get-ups, if that's your bag. And he says the reason that he done it, this was his reason for done it. He says if I didn't back myself and didn't show the players that I back myself, then they're not going to go into the park feeling that they back themselves here. So that's how he dressed up, to give that aura of confidence and that he backed himself. And that is a very, very Rodgers thing. Brendan backs himself completely.
I saw him that day at the St. Roch's game, and it's just hilarious. I mean, the amount of money he must have had on his person at that time in terms of the flash gutties and the jacket and everything else. It is quite funny, but that is Brendan to a T.
It is Brendan, and we need to see how this is going to go. I think the way it's been reported, the football doctor, and he actually did say that. Oh, I class myself as a football doctor. I go on, I use my experience, I use my knowledge. I'm a consultant. I'll go on there and look where clubs can improve. That is his. I can actually just picture him sitting in an interview if he had an interview.
Yeah.
And he's one of the guys. He's one of the guys you would walk out believing that he's going to change us. But as you say, there's hundreds of they guys kicking about at talk a good game. Andy Lee, to be fair, Matt Wall, what come for the City group? I suppose that leads to the question, we shouldn't actually say Matt Wall came for the peak. Even though this boy's background is not what we would call elite level, it's not to say that he hasn't got the knowledge and doing what he's doing. Brendan Rodgers never played at an elite level. But he's a decent enough manager for us. North Standard brings in a worrying point. Don Mackay gave us a fresh pair of eyes. Oh well, this board doesn't change. That is a worry, because Dom seemed to come in to try to change it, and whoever he annoyed, he was at the door very, very quickly. If rumour is to be believed,
that's a Netflix documentary, isn't it? It really is. Probably will obviously never see the light of day, but just with all the sort of the documentaries that I would see Celtic are bringing out a thing about the American tour.
I'm quite glad they're doing stuff like that.
Oh no, me too.
They've got complete and utterly great access, and Celtic TV should be bringing out stuff like that.
Yeah, me too. But wouldn't it be great if there was an hour special on Don Mackay and what happened? Like tell us what happened, because it's still to this day such a bizarre scenario that took place there, where we appointed the guy and it was so heralded and so much press and everything else, and then he just leaves, and it's kind of like, all right, thanks, see you later. And then there's no like explanation or anything like that. There's never any kind of clarity as to what happened, and we're just all supposed to be like, oh well.
If you're an outsider looking in, it seemed to be, what do you mean you're buying the players the manager wants? That seemed to be what do you mean you're spending £3 million on another right back? Well, haven't they, well, it seemed to me that he thought he was there to serve the manager, and the board were going, no, you're not there to serve the manager. Right. Kaiser brings up a point, I didn't know if it's true. Seemingly he's responsible for the Idah and Kuhn transfers as Mr. Tisdale.
Really?
Wow. Well, that's what the man Kaiser is saying in the comments. Martin comes in. I'm a born and bred Bristol Rovers fan. Tisdale was sacked after 3 months, replaced by Joey Barton. Oh no. Like you, Kev, I will reserve judgment if he comes in.
As manager, there's a difference.
Manager, aye.
Right. Well, I don't think there's
role now. Completely different.
Exactly. I don't think you could judge him. I mean, that the optics on that aren't great, I'll admit, but I don't think you can judge him on his managerial prowess versus this role, because it's completely different. But I'll go back to what I said. If Brendan Rodgers is part of this happening, I'm okay with it. I've always said that if Brendan Rodgers is putting his name to a sign-in or whatever, I'm also happy with it, because ultimately it's him that lives or dies by the players that he signs. And he's said that. Many managers have said it in the past, but you know that it's not been the case that they have been signing the players. They've been given a list and told to pick one of them, and then that's not really how it should work. It should be a proper team effort to sign a player where everyone's on the same page, and it's not just a case of, oh well, he looks the best of this bunch, I'll get him. There should be a lot more to it than that, I would have thought.
Well, hopefully it's not a case of Doctor Who and he leaves in a TARDIS or regenerates into
headlines for those mainstream media,
or regenerates into a Stratting or a LOL. I'm going to bring up this. There was two comments I was going to end with there. Paddy, I'll bring you up last. Robert Hyland. Celtic should hire Greggs to do the catering. Right. In a previous life, I'll tell you the story because I don't think I'm actually breaking any confidentiality stuff. In a previous life, I was a member of the affiliation, and I had meetings with the club on quite a regular basis. John Paul Taylor, the SLO. And this was the catering at Celtic Park was discussed. And somebody brought up, why do you not get a company like Greggs to do it? And the reason that Celtic didn't get a company like Greggs to do it is basically Greggs want paid
to
come into the stadium and do it. So
well,
rather than this, well, instead of the company coming in just now and paying Celtic, Greggs wanted money, and Celtic would make no money from anything that was sold.
Okay, that's a bit mental.
Yes.
I wouldn't subscribe to that. No,
Aye.
I think
so. That was basically why Greggs was a no go. That Celtic weren't interested in that.
You wouldn't get a sausage. You wouldn't get a sausage roll for £1.25 at Celtic Park on a Saturday afternoon. That's for sure. It'd be about £4 or something, maybe £3, but it certainly wouldn't be £1.25.
Definitely, P. McLaughlin agrees with me. Greggs wanted Celtic to pay them, and that is true. Celtic would have made no money whatsoever. Greggs wanted to make all the money, and Celtic to pay them to have the Greggs brand at Celtic Park. There you go.
Well, that shoots down that idea. But
Paddy, Kev, did you show that album picture to JP? I haven't, Paddy, but I will show him it. Paddy sent us a picture of an album. I'll try and get it up on the phone. I don't know if this will work. If it doesn't, this will make great. Sorry for all these people that are listening on audio later on. I'm really sorry, but hey, I'm in charge today. Here's Paddy.
Oh, you see Primal Screamer supporting Alice Cooper. Did you know that? At the Hydro. I just saw like a thing online. It was like
well, Gillespie says quite a few times that him and Innes were really influenced by Alice Cooper. They're big fans. Yeah. So I wonder if that's there.
Oh, I can see.
So it's an album. It's got Glasgow Celtic double champions from 71-72. And as far as I can make out, it was recorded at the Celtic Social Club on the London Road.
Right.
And so on the back, the track listing, I may as well read out the track listing. Celtic, the best team in the land. Track 2, Wonderful World. Track 3, We Shall Not Be Moved. Track 4, Wild Rover. Track 5, Irish Rover. Track 6, The Celtic Jig. Anything like. Side 2, We'll Be There. Track 1. Track 2, Inky Pinky. Anybody got any ideas? Track 3, The Celts Go Marching On. Tracks 4, the Boys of Kilmichael. Track 5, A Nation Once Again. And track 6, Roddy McCorley. I've never seen this album, but I remember my dad having a couple of these type albums that seem to be released in the 70s and 80s, especially the 70s. So if anybody's got a copy of that album, please rip it and put it on YouTube, because it'd be interesting to actually hear. I wonder if Paddy's got I wonder if Paddy's got a copy of it. Anyway, that's your music talk. There's a Celtic album out there celebrating that we were double champions in 1970-71 that was recorded in the Social Club on the London Road. Brilliant. JP, thanks very much for your time. Everybody in the comments, you've been great. And remember, didn't be bams to each other. Cheers. See you later.
See you later.